Right then, welcome back. So yeah, it's been a little while since we've had any videos on the channel. Sorry about that, guys. Don't know if anyone's noticed, a bit of a pandemic on the go at the moment. It's been pretty difficult getting out filming any content, and I hate to say the B word, but Brexit hasn't helped either. So back at the very start of Jan, I decided I was going to try some different rear brake calipers. Place an order on Autodoc, which has normally been pretty good, and a month later, these turned up. So, caliper upgrade. I've thought for a long while that I might have a bit of an imbalance in the brake system hydraulically. I've always struggled with locking up a front wheel. It's always been the front that snatches early. So we ditched the ABS 5 years ago, we fitted the bias valve, and I've always run the bias valve set to full rear brake. Never managed to lock a rear brake ever. Now most people racing with this platform run tiny rear brakes, bias valve, reduce the pressure to the rear brakes just to stop them from locking. Don't know why, it's never happened to me. So I fitted the CB Auto 300mm two-piece rear disc, definitely shifted the bias rearward, but I still couldn't get the rears into play as much as I'd like. So even with the bias valve fully open, it would still snatch a front wheel really easily. So the next step is to shift the bias hydraulically backwards, and we're going to do that by changing an existing 38mm piston rear caliper for VAG parts bin special. These are from a C5 A6 and with a 43mm piston in the rear caliper. So Carl Asplin, you might know him as Desert Storm with a TT, has done a legwork on this. He's actually been running these for about 2 years now, and apparently it's all good. Fitment wise, bolt centers here to here are exactly the same. Pad fitting is exactly the same. The only difference is the handbrake mechanism. So the handbrake mechanism is slightly rotated on this caliper. So what I'm going to do, remove this pin, try and rotate the whole lot around, re-drill the hole for that pin to bring this back round to where it wants to be. And other than that, this should be a bolt-up fit. The reason we're in the kitchen today, it is freezing outside. It's currently -1 here. And the garage has got no heating. So I don't really fancy doing all this out there. So I'm going to modify these. Once they're ready to go on, we're going to head out into the cold and see what we can do. Right, so if I offer these up here, these hole centers are identical from the old to the new. The actual assembly for the handbrake is a very similar design. The hole in here for the outer cable is exactly the same. Where the cable pin is retained is the same on this part on either side. The only thing is a position, so this is lining up that way, this is lining up over there. So we've probably got 40 degrees between them. So I'm going to see what I can do. Take this pin out, rotate it, and re-drill. Right, so I've just risked eye and limb to get the spring off. So now we're going to pop this arm off and see how we can go about rotating it. This is probably a point where a puller would be handy, because that is pretty happily on that spline. Right, it wasn't actually too bad. So what I did, put a 5mm Allen key in there, rotated it, that pushed to one side, popped screwdriver in the other side, rotated that, and that is now working its way off. There we go, one arm off. So in theory, I've just got to work out what the angle difference is between that arm and rotate this until we're there. Right, so I've got both the calipers stripped down. Now, what I think I can do, I think when that goes on, so that's where it's meant to be, and where it's meant to get to, I pop that on there, and where it's meant to be is about there. If you look on there, that is millimetres off where the hole is, so it's not quite going to catch it. So if I just come a fraction of a degree back to where I've marked that, I think that is going to work. So that lever will be literally a degree or so back, which should be fine on the handbrake cable, and we'll see how that works. Right, I'm outside, car's up in the air. I don't think there's any point trying to carry on using the C5 rear arms. Had a really good talk with Carl whilst we were having lunch, and yeah, there's all sorts of things that foul. The arms are slightly too long, not quite enough slack in the standard handbrake cable, and also when it closes up it fouls on one of the bolts, so a bit more to modify there. So I'm just going to whip the arms off the car, modify them, get them on the new calipers, then I'll attack the swap on the car. So you kind of go as tight as you can, and there you go, done. Clip off, and brake cable out of the way. There we go. One arm out, so we're gonna modify that. Can't remember where we re-drill, somewhere around here. And yeah, right, let's get these cleaned up. I can barely see you because the sun behind me is insane, but one caliper, ta-da, one arm. Now what I've done, I've re-drilled the hole and actually countersunk it, so the idea is it's probably not going to sit there for me, but no. So we have the old arm on the caliper. Now this is countersunk because normally when this comes round, this little notch here actually stops and hits that bolt, but when you move it round it doesn't give the handbrake enough throw, so I've put a countersunk bolt in there so it doesn't foul when it comes round. So that is ready to go on the car. One new caliper, let's offer it up. Top one. Ah, that's interesting. That fouls me getting the bottom bolt in. Right, having another go. So I've undone that, put the bolt in. We will see if this approach works. Thread that bottom one on first. Slide it up into place. Thread the top one. I really am losing the plot in this garage these days. So I'm going to pop that out, turn it over. Absolutely covered in shit. Everything covered in shit. So we're going to pop that out, turn it over, back in from underneath, crush washer back on. Now hopefully the flexies will fit. It's actually looking pretty promising. That's dead tight. Just hope that's sealed with those old crush washers. I'm going to try and find some new ones and I might change them. Right, well, I spent an awfully long time buggering around with the first side. I genuinely think this second side is going to take about 15 minutes. So let's get stuck in. This was pretty tricky on the other side, so I'm going to crack this off. Yep. Equally tight this side. I cannot feel my hands at all now. It's not the nicest feeling in the world. So that's off. Right, next up, for anyone running these on a CB Auto 300mm kit, there's actually a small section here which is only holding a kind of locating lug that fouls on the bracket. So all the hydraulic stuff goes down the centre here. If you look, it sticks out beyond the body of the caliper, so you just got to take that off flat. Nice and simple. See, so that is now lower than the body there, so it won't foul. Right then, let's get this on. So cold out here today, it's unreal. Battery died midway through that, but here we go. One caliper bolted up with a CB 300mm two-piece setup. So on the inside here, we've re-drilled this hole, put a countersink in, rotated the whole unit around, and that's the handbrake in and working with the original levers. So just got to get the fluid connection. So previously it went on top about here, it now goes underneath. So we're going to try and see if this hose fits as well as the other side did. But it's not as easy as you'd expect it to be. There we go. Off. So this flexi line, fairly ironically named, as it is not very flexi. Well, this has turned into a bit of a nightmare. Right, let's see if the flexi will give us the play we need. I think it will, you know. Probably would if I could feel my hands.
2 weeks later.
Right, well, what you guys last saw was actually about 2 weeks ago, so I haven't really had much of a chance to get out here, but I've road tested it. It works pretty well. It's really hard to say that it's not a placebo of new parts, because you go out, the car has always stopped well, it still stops well. However, temporarily I threw some brand new standard Pagid road pads in the rear. I've actually now got some Pagid RS42s to throw in. After that, I'm going to be doing a little bit of fiddling around with the servo, see if we can get a bit of a better pedal feel with some alterations to the vacuum circuit. However, short term, it's pretty dark in here as you can see, I have finally added lights. Anyway, 40 foot of LED in the garage roof now. So, I think that's enough from me, guys. I will update you on how the 43mm rear pistons go, but yeah, until the next time when we're doing some servo mods, I'll see you then. Take care, guys. Cheers.